Voyager, and last I left off, I sprayed the entire model with Future. If you're not seen Future, I always mention it. It's a pledge here. Now, I didn't want to make the model entirely glossy. I just basically sprayed a light coat on here just to seal all the acrylic paint on there, because the Model Master acrylic, it has a tendency to, you can scrape it off, because I paint super thin when I airbrush paint, so once I get a couple coats on, I like to seal the work. It just makes it easier. So after that, I went ahead and started, I'm going to call it detail painting, painting the sensor bands, the phaser banks, the little tan parts up here. I don't know what they're called. I know they're not escape pods. The thrusters, which got them brown color. I know the phaser banks should be I don't know, a tan color. I know it is on the studio model, but on the show they look gray to me. So what I want to do is I'm going to do a little dry brushing on the sensor bands since I got them painted. I'm going to dry brush just to get a little get the highlights on them, and then I want to dry brush the phaser banks, just tone them down just a little bit of brown on there, just to tone them down, not make them entirely black. But this is a black gray phaser banks. But anyway, it looks pretty darn slick. Got the bottom the same way, and only thing I got to really do now is paint like the torpedo bays on the top and the bottom, and then the deflector dish, get that painted and glued on, and then be ready for decals, which hopefully I can start this upcoming weekend. And what I'm going to do on the decals is, I don't like to spray the entire model unless you're putting decals from the very tip to the very end. I can understand that. All I do is I take Vallejo's gloss, load it in the airbrush, and I'll airbrush a gloss area like where the registry is, where this decal will go. I'll spray it, and then I'll spray like the spots where the decals will go. And then after I get that on, then the decals on, then I'll go back in and spray flat on it. And that way you don't have to spray the entire model and have a glossy model, which is unnecessary if you're not going to put decals on everywhere on it. But anyway, I think Voyager's taking shape, so try to get decals on this upcoming weekend, and hopefully get the base and everything and all that good stuff. So that's where I am on Voyager. The trifugal, I understand what is going, why it wants to quit when it spins. It actually is the motor, and if I would have known the motor up front, I would have probably got a different one. But I'm going to go with it, because it actually, when it spins, and I'm not an engineer by no means. I'm just learning. I learned the short version of it. When it's spinning, it actually I guess creates energy, and then kind of goes back to the motor. And when it goes back to the motor, it stalls. And I really don't know how to fix that or anything. Or you probably just need to get another good type of motor, I guess, best way to explain it. But I'm going to go with it. It does spin, so I'm going to just go with it and leave it like this, so I can show everyone it does spin. And then of course it just don't spin hours on end by no means, but it does work. So I'm going to go with it, and I've already got it pretty much the hull assembled. But I want to show everyone the wing on here. Now I know it's probably not on right. I just stuck it on, but I wanted to show everyone. Let's see if I can. We'll get a little bit closer. It's try to stay out of its way here. Something like that. Which is pretty. I think it's because of the. It runs if it didn't have a load, and I think it stalls because once it has a load on it. And anyway, it does work, so we will. We're going to go with it. I think that is just pretty darn slick, and plus get the cockpit on and everything. I just think it'll work out just fine. But anyway, that's where I am on that. A stalling motor, which I don't know how to fix that at all, but anyway, I'm going to go with it. I'm going to start assembling it as we speak. So I got the hole together, and I have a little bit of seam. I couldn't get it clamped together too good there, so I had to do a little putty work, which I like to use. I don't like to use Bondo anymore. I like to use old school putty, which is all you gotta do. Oh, come on! I like to use sprue, and you can get all different colors, you know, from different kits. I like to use white or a light green or a yellow. That way, when you put it on a kit, you can actually see it and don't just blend in. And all you do is cut you up some sprue, and you can make it as thick as you want it. You can make it as thin as you want it, and just pour in some model glue, and it makes it you know, very thick, or you can make it good and thin. This is the consistency that I like. I think it just fuses with the model really, really well. And you're sanding plastic on plastic. You don't have no you don't have any shrinking with the putty or anything, and it's just easier to work with. But anyway, I got that on. Now with like Bondo, it takes a while for it to dry. Model putty takes a little longer to dry, but once the sprue dries, wet sand it, you're good to go. So I got the bottom and I got the top, so I'm gonna try to get that sanded today, and then we'll just start continuing on assembling the kit. Now I've got to decide on the base, and I haven't decided if I want to do I either want to do a dome or I may do a wood base. I haven't really decided. I'm leaning toward the wood base. I try to make everything standard around here when I build kits. So that's my game plan on that. But anyway, that's what I got going on today. We are continuing on with the trifugal, getting it starting to get it assembled, and Voyager getting all its little detail painting. So that's what I got going on today. So stay tuned for the next exciting episode.